Let me give a warm welcome to all my Weaving Weird siblings, weirdlings, and just fun people. For those of you who aren't in the know, my name is Sig. I'm a retired tattoo artist turned active fiber artist and crocheter. And here on my channel, you and I get to create a little magic with every knot. So don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. This doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me to provide you with regular tutorials featuring original designs, classic patterns, and lacy motifs. I'm always interested in your feedback, so feel free to leave your comments and questions below. So now we're going to discuss a little bit about the various embellishments you might bring in to decorate or give your poppet the personality that you envision it to have, or even just let its personality grow organically. For many of us, we have bits and bobs laying around in our craft section of our homes and in our sewing boxes. And if we don't have that, we can typically find them wherever. We can find them at thrift stores. We can find them at the local hobby stores. We can, maybe have them gifted to us by friends and family who've got these odds and ends that they don't use and think that maybe you might be able to do something with them. And typically these are things we have sitting around for a while or put away just in case that one pattern comes up that we feel it's going to be appropriate for. So that's kind of the way it works for me. So for example, since this is a Poppet, or rather also known as a Voodoo doll, and typically one of the iconic things we think in terms of with a Voodoo doll is the heart, right? It can be cut from felt. It can be crocheted. There are lots of ways you can add a heart to your doll if that's what you're thinking you might like to do. And for me, that's exactly what I want to do. And so what I happen to have here is about 1.5 years ago, I made a heart. I designed a heart with a skull in it. And if you're interested in this lacy motif, I will put a link to the tutorial in the description box below for you. But I like this heart. I like the color. It's a beautiful contrast to the crimson yarn I'm using. So yes, and it's also allows fun interest. So I'm going to use this as my heart. In addition, buttons, right? Because this is a Voodoo doll and we all, or rag doll or a Poppet, we all love to use buttons on these dolls because, well, they're just fitting. And so I just gave you an example. I've used some of these buttons in the face of my doll, as you can see, but you can see that there are just a variety of different buttons out there. You probably have several types. If you don't, it really is just a matter of going to a craft store or a sewing store where they're going to have all sorts of buttons to choose from. Even the thrift stores frequently have lots and lots of different types of buttons to choose from. I frequently just collect buttons, or if I see kind of unusual button or a button I think I might be able to use in the future, I just simply buy it and put it into like the jar or the container that I hold all my loose buttons in. And I frequently find a use for them. Also, eyes, right? You can use safety eyes. I have a whole bunch of these different flat back eyes, glass eyes. I think it's kind of like a glass disc with a sticker or some kind of a image of an eye that is adhered to the back of it. So between the two, you get this nice three-dimensional look of an eyeball. So I really like these, and I have these in several different sizes, and I use them. Also, like your standard safety eyes. You can use standard safety eyes. There are different ways that you can put these together according to your taste and what suits you, or simply with what you have that you make work. However it is you approach this, it's all you. It's about the personality you bring to this magical doll. In addition, you can even use other scraps of fabric. So I have used this clearly in my Poppet. And what this is this happens to be strips of silk material, and the silk material has been attached, sewn, tied to other strips of silk material, scrap silk material. And it's used to make what is frequently known as a rag yarn. Now, this rag yarn or ribbon yarn, also known as ribbon yarn, I think probably because it has, it's made from strips of silk. This I actually got in kind of a mystery bag from Darn Good Yarn. I got several cardboard slats that had all these strips of this waste material ribbons wrapped around it. And so what I did was I took off all the ribbons, and most of the ribbons were already connected to other ribbons in order to give you the specific length indicated on the packaging. However, I just undid the whole thing and I tied them all together to give me one large ball of ribbon yarn. And you'll see that I used this in my piece too. And so why I'm talking about this is because I just want to encourage you that just because you don't have maybe the exact materials I have to embellish your doll with, that doesn't make a difference. It's not a big deal. You just use what you have. You use what you like better. You use what speaks to you. Now, if you like what I've done with mine and you happen to have the same or similar kinds of bits around, then absolutely. And later in this video, I will give a quick rundown on how I achieved the look that I did. But if you don't have anything like mine, okay, not a problem. In fact, it's probably even more perfect. You get to make a doll that fits you, your personality, or the personality of the individual you happen to be maybe making this for. For today's video, I will be using 2 of these cakes of Bernat Blanket Yarn by Yarnspiration. This is a 300-gram cake. It's going to weigh approximately 10.5 ounces. And for our 300 grams, we will get approximately 201 meters. So for this project, because it's a large plushie, I will be using 2 of these. Now, the colorway of this particular yarn is crimson. However, it comes in lots of different colorways. There are many different types of blanket yarn out there. You do you, pick whichever you want to use, but this is the one I will be using. The next yarn I'm going to be using on this project is the Loops and Threads. They're basic Impeccable acrylic. It is a weight 4, which is a medium. This one suggests that you use a size 8 or an USH. This doesn't really have a particular colorway name. Oh, wait, it does actually, Claret. The number is going to be 01532. And then next, I'm going to just be using this basic unbranded black acrylic yarn. It's approximately a 4-weight. I think it's a little heavy for a 4-weight, but for my purposes, it'll be perfect. I don't have any other information to give you about it other than it is a standard black economy type yarn, acrylic yarn. Also, as many of you would expect, you're going to want your scissors, a large yarn needle, and at least 1, maybe a couple of more stitch markers. And finally, for this piece, I am going to be using a size F or a 3.75 millimeter hook for my 4-weight yarn, and then a size K or a 6.5 millimeter for my blanket yarns. Now, as I am sure you have already noticed, these sized hooks are smaller than the recommended hook size for the yarn as indicated on the yarn's information. But because I'm making an amigurumi, even though it's going to be a large, plushy, cuddly amigurumi, I want to use a smaller hook with the yarn so I can make my fabric tighter. So I've already started, and I've made one arm and I've started one leg. And what I've done is I've pulled these colors from the center of my first cake. So I started with the leg first, and then I started with the arm. And this is what I have left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to set these aside for now. And I'm going to start my second leg and my second arm from this. So I'll first start with my leg so that the colorway can stay consistent with the first leg that I completed, and then also the arm. Same thing, so that my arm can resemble very closely to the first arm that I completed. And when I've completed showing you the instructions for this one leg and this one arm, which you will make 2 of each, one set from each cake, then I will move on to the next aspect of this tutorial. So I'm going to start with a leg, and this is the very center of my cake. And I'm going to begin with an adjustable ring. And I'm going to make my chain 1. And then I'm going to single crochet 6. And for this piece, I'm simply going to work in a spiral. So there's going to be no joining for the leg and no joining for the arms when we get there. And I'll probably remind you of that again, as per usual. Next, what I want to do is for round 2, I want to increase in each stitch. So round 1 ended with 6 stitches. Round 2 will end with 12 stitches. For those of you who are unfamiliar with an increase is basically 2 single crochets in this case in the same stitch. So I have 6 stitches already in the round, and 2 additional stitches in each of those stitches will leave me with 12 stitches for round 2. Next, for round 3, I want to follow the pattern of an increase, then a single crochet. And I want to repeat that pattern 6 times. So an increase, and then a single crochet in the next stitch. And then in the stitch after that, an increase. And then a single crochet in the next stitch after that. So I've completed the pattern twice. I'm going to do it 4 more times. And when you've completed round 3, you're going to have 18 stitches at the end of your round. Now moving on to round 4, going to do an increase and then single crochet twice. I'm going to repeat that 6 times for a total count of 24 for round 4. So an increase, and then a single crochet once, and then a single crochet in the next stitch. And that's 1, so I'll repeat that pattern 5 more times. So an increase, and then a single crochet in the stitch after that, and 1 more single crochet in the stitch after that. I'm going to repeat that pattern 4 more times, and I'll see you back here for round 5. For round 5, I'm going to increase and then single crochet 3 times. That's going to be the pattern, and that pattern I'm going to repeat 6 times. And the end of round 5 will finish with a count of 30 stitches. So it will begin with an increase, and then a single crochet once, twice in the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, the 3rd single crochet. So an increase and then 3 single crochets. So I'm going to repeat this pattern 5 more times, and I'll meet you back here for round 6. Now we're moving on to round 6. And for round 6, I'm going to increase and then I'm going to single crochet 4 times. So my increase, and then my 1, 2, 3, and 4 single crochets. And I'm going to repeat that pattern 6 times. So I've done it once, I'm going to do it 5 more times. And when I've completed round 6, I will have 36 stitches to complete that round. Next, for round 7, I'm going to increase and then single crochet 5 times. Once I've completed that pattern 6 times, I'm going to end with a count of 42 stitches for round 7. I'm going to begin with my increase. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to repeat that pattern 5 more times. So now I've completed round 7. I've got 42 stitches in my round. And I am going to now bring in my stitch marker. You may have decided to use a stitch marker sooner than this, and that would have been perfectly okay, of course. And what I want to do now is for rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, so basically for the next 5 rounds, I want to just single crochet each stitch. So each of those rounds is going to end with 42 stitches. So I'm going to begin with my first stitch for round 8. And I'm going to single crochet each stitch in that round. And then when I've completed the next 5 rounds, so round 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, I will meet you right back here. Because at that point, basically going to fasten off, because then we'll be done with that leg, and we'll move on to the arm. So now I've completed my leg. This is my second leg. If this is your first leg, go ahead and make another one just like it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to get started on the arm. And just like with the leg, I'm going to begin with an adjustable ring. I'm going to make a chain, and then I'm going to single crochet 6. I'm going to tighten up my ring. So I have a count of 6 stitches on my first round. I'm going to move to my second round, and I'm going to increase for my second round. And so round 2 will end with a total count of 12 stitches. So moving on to round 3, I'm going to increase, and then I'm going to single crochet. So that's going to be the start of the pattern, an increase and then a single crochet. I'm going to repeat that 6 times, and I will end with round 3 having 18 stitches for the round. Next, for round 4, the pattern I'm going to follow is to increase and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And so I'm going to repeat that pattern 6 times. So I'm going to increase and then single crochet once and then twice. So I'm going to repeat that pattern 5 more times, and I will end round 4 with a count of 24. Then next, for round 5, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to increase, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And I'll repeat that pattern 6 times, and that will leave me with an end count of 30 stitches for round 5. So it's my increase, and then single crochet once, and then twice, and then 3 times. And I repeat that pattern 5 more times, and I'll meet you right back here for round 6. Now for round 6, I'm going to break out my stitch marker. because I'm going to single crochet 30 stitches for each round for the next 4 rounds. So rounds 6, 7, 8, and 9, I'm simply going to single crochet in each one of those stitches. So first stitch for round 6. And I'm going to continue on until I've completed round 9. And when I've completed round 9, I will meet you right back here. So now I've completed the first 9 rounds of my arm. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move on to round 10. And for round 10, I'm going to begin and I'm going to decrease and then replace my stitch marker. And then I'm going to single crochet 13. And I'm going to repeat that pattern twice. So this is the first, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 11, 12, and 13. So then I'm going to repeat that pattern that I just did. So I'm going to begin with a decrease, and then I'm going to single crochet 13. And that will be the completion of round 10, and I will have 28 stitches. 13. Now for rounds 11 and 12, I'm simply going to single crochet in each round. So a single crochet in each stitch for rounds 11 and 12. And I will meet you right back here when I've completed round 12. Now I've completed my 12th round, and I'm going to move on to round 13. And for round 13, I want to decrease and then single crochet 12. So I want to repeat that pattern 2 times, and that will leave me with a total count of 26 for the round of 13. I'm going to begin with my decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet 12. And 12. And then again, my decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet 12 more. And I'll see you right back here at the completion of round 13. Okay, now for the next 2 rounds, which are going to be 14 and 15, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So each of those rounds, 14 and 15, will end with a total count of 26 stitches. And when I've completed round 15, I'll meet you right back here. Now for round 16, I'm going to decrease, single crochet 11, decrease again, and then single crochet 11 one more time. So I'm going to begin with my decrease. And I'm going to single crochet 11. I'm going to repeat that pattern one more time, and I will meet you back here. Okay, so I've just now completed round 16, and I have 24 stitches in my round. For rounds 17 and 18, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So for rounds 17 and 18, I'm going to end each one of those rounds with 24 stitches as well. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will meet you back here for round 19. Now moving on to round 19, I'm going to make a decrease, and then I'm going to single crochet 10. I'm going to decrease and then single crochet 10 more, and that will leave me with a total count of 22 for the round 19. So my decrease, and when I've completed that pattern twice, I'll meet you right back here for round 20. Now for round 20, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. And so when I complete round 20, I will have a total of 22 stitches. Now for 21, again, I'm going to decrease and then single crochet 9 this time, and then do a decrease and single crochet 9. So when I've done that, I will have completed round 21, and that will leave me with 20 stitches for that round. Moving on to round 22, I'm simply going to single crochet in each one of these stitches. So I will complete round 22 with a total of 20 stitches. For round 23, I'm going to decrease and then single crochet 8. I'm going to repeat that pattern twice. And when I've completed round 23, I will have 18 stitches for that round. For round 24, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So when I've completed round 24, I will have completed 18 stitches. So 18 single crochets. Or rather, to say it more appropriately, I'm going to single crochet 18 times. So moving on to round 25. For this round, I'm simply going to decrease, single crochet 7, decrease again, single crochet 7 more times. That will leave me with a total of 16 stitches for round 25. So now moving on to round 26, and in fact rounds 26 through 29. The next 4 rounds, simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So each round is going to end with a total count of 16. At this point, you're going to want to lightly stuff your hand. So with this, let me move that out of the way. With this arm, I've lightly stuffed it, so it just gives it a little bit of plumpness. And you can see up here, there's almost no stuffing at all. And the thickness of this blanket yarn really allows you to get a nice squishy feel without very much stuffing. So that is an actual little bit of a bonus when using a blanket yarn. So go ahead and single crochet each stitch for the next 4 rounds, 26 through 29. Lightly stuff your arm, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I've completed all 29 rounds, and I've lightly stuffed my arm. Next, I'm going to close my arm. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sandwich the 2 ends together. And because I have 16 stitches in that round, I'm going to be able to single crochet 8 across. For 1, 2, 3, and 8. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut myself enough of a tail for sewing. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a nice long piece of yarn, maybe 18 inches or so. And this is what I'm going to make my thumb with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread my yarn with my big yarn needle. Then I'm going to come here to the beginning part of my arm, and I'm going to count up 11 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So this is about where I want my thumb to be. And now the only thing you really have to pay attention to is that, you know, it's easy to get your thumbs turned around. So this is something you might want to wait till you have both arms completed, and then you can decide which side you're going to have your thumbs on. But what you're going to want to do then is line up the edge of your shoulder part of your arm down here to this 11th row, or round rather. And then just come in ever so slightly, just a little bit. And then you're going to want to figure, 3 or 4 stitches length, and that's what you're going to go ahead and start your thumb on. And then be careful not to pull this all the way through, just enough so that it hides the yarn just on the inside of that thumb. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just whip stitch that same stitch area about 11 times. So I've got the 1, and then the 2, and 3. This way we're going to build up the thumb, and everything's going to hold itself in place. And then when you've completed, you've got a nice, cute little thumb. So now that I have my 2 arms complete, I'm going to bring forward my legs. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch marker them together. So now that I've stitch markered my legs together, so basically where each side I ended, I fastened off, I lined those up to face each other. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie in my yarn again. And this time it doesn't matter. I'm going to decide which one of these cakes I'm going to start the body with. And eventually, so my reasoning behind this is so that as it goes up the body, it gets lighter and lighter, and it'll add a nice gradation. So I decided this is the cake I'm going to use. I'm going to pick this cake to use this cake for the body. And then the second cake that I have that I used with the other leg and arm, I will explain to you how I work that in after we complete the body. So back to the body. So really, I'm just going to go ahead, and what I want to do is I want to tie my yarn in. And I'm going to go ahead, remove that marker. Next, I'm going to place a single crochet in each stitch all the way around the leg 1, and then continue all the way around leg 2. And when I've completed, I will have made 84 single crochets all the way around to work my legs together and start getting my body going. So this is basically going to be the first round for the body, and you're going to end with a count of 84 single crochets. And I'll meet you right back here when I've completed this round. Okay, so as you can see, I've now completed my first round for the body, 84 stitches. So for round 2 is also going to end with 84 single crochets. I'm just going to continue on as before. Okay, so I've completed rounds 1 and rounds 2 for the body. And so for the next 8 rounds, rounds 3 through 10, I'm going to do exactly the same thing I've done here. So for each one of the next 8 rounds, you are going to end with a count of 84 stitches. And then when I've completed round 10, I will meet you right back here for the next step. So now that the first 10 rounds of the body are completed, my piece is starting to take shape and looks like this. And for me, this is the perfect time to get my little stitch decorations placed before I get too farther along, because it's much easier to sew in my little voodoo stitch marks now than to, let's say, wait until the whole piece is stuffed and then sew it like that. I mean, you can do it either way. I just prefer this way. I just kind of, as I go along, I'm kind of a work in my ends, do my stitches, do my decorative stitches as I go along, particularly with these larger pieces. Now I'm going to carry on to round 11. And for round 11, the pattern I'm going to follow is going to be a decrease, and then I'm going to single crochet 12. So that pattern of a decrease plus single crochet 12, I'm going to do that 6 times. And what that will then have me left with is going to be 78 single crochets for round 11. So I'll start with my decrease, and then I'm going to single crochet 12. 2, 3, 11, and 12. So I'm going to repeat that 5 more times. I'm going to begin with my decrease, and then I'm going to go ahead and single crochet 12 again. All right, when I've completed this pattern for the total of 6 times, I will meet you back here to begin round 12 and 12. Next, I'm going to move on to round 12. And for round 12, I'm simply going to single crochet each stitch in the round. And so then that will leave me, of course, with 78 stitches when I have completed that. Next, we're going to move on to round 13. And for round 13, I'm going to follow the pattern of a decrease and then single crochet 11. So this decrease plus a single crochet of 11 is going to be done 6 times. And when I've completed this round, I will have a total of 72 stitches. So remove that. And then, so I'm going to begin with my decrease. Next, for round 14, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. And so when I've completed round 14, I will have ended with 72 stitches. Next, moving on to round 15, I'm going to decrease and then single crochet 10 times. And so that particular pattern of a decrease and single crochet 10 times, I'm going to do that 6 times. And that will leave me with a total of 66 stitches for this round. I'm going to begin. Again, my decrease, and then 1, 2. Now for round 16, I'm simply going to single crochet each stitch for the round, and that will leave me with 66 stitches for this round of 16. For round 17, the pattern is going to be a decrease plus single crochet 9 times, and that pattern is going to be repeated 6 times. So again, it'll be a decrease and a single crochet 9 times, and that will have us end this round with a count of 60 stitches. Then next, for round 18, again, we're just simply going to single crochet each stitch in the round, and I will be ending my round 18 with a total count of 60 single crochets. So for round 19, I'm going to begin it with a decrease and then single crochet 8. And that pattern is going to be repeated 6 times. So I've got my decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet 8. Now for round 20, simply going to single crochet each stitch. And you can kind of see how this has been going, and it's pretty redundant, I understand, but we're almost there. So hang tight. So I'm going to single crochet in each of the next stitches for round 20, and I'm going to end with a total count of 54 stitches. Now for round 21, I'm going to decrease and then single crochet 7, and that pattern I'm going to repeat 6 times, and that will leave us with a total count of 48 stitches at the end of this round. So begin with my decrease, and then I'm going to move on with now for round 22. So for round 22, simply going to single crochet 48 stitches. And then when we've completed the 48 single crochets, we'll move on to round 23. Now for round 23, the pattern is going to be a decrease and then single crochet 6. I'm going to repeat that 6 times, and once that round is completed, I will have 42 stitches on the round. Next, for round 24, again, I'm simply going to single crochet each stitch. And so once we've completed round 24, I will have completed 42 stitches for that round. For round 25, yes, you guessed it, going to decrease and then single crochet 5. I'm going to repeat that pattern 6 times, and that will leave us with a total count of 36 stitches. For round 26, again, going to simply single crochet each stitch, and I'm going to end round 26 with a total of 36 stitches. Next, we're moving on to round 27. And for round 27, again, going to decrease and then single crochet 4. So the decrease plus a single crochet 4 is going to be a pattern that we again repeat 6 times. And when we've completed that, we will have completed the round and have 30 stitches. So now for rounds 28 and 29, simply going to single crochet in each of the stitches. And so for each round of 28 and 29, we will finish with a total of 30 single crochets. Also, I'm just about out of the yarn for this one cake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in this second cake that I'm working with, and I'm actually going to go ahead, and when I tie in this yarn, I'm going to tie in the yarn from the outer edge so that I can have my lightest yarn tie in with what I'm ending with, which is the lightest end of the yarn cake. For round 30, I'm going to decrease and then single crochet 3 times. I'm going to repeat this pattern 6 times. So once I've completed this round, I will have completed a total of 24 stitches. So now that I've completed round 30, I'm going to need to start with the second cake because I just finished off the first cake. And then I'm going to pull in the second cake. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the lightest end of this cake. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tie these off together before moving on. And then what I'm going to do is for rounds 31 through 35, so that's going to be the next 5 rounds, I am simply going to single crochet in each stitch. Also, keep in mind that this is a good time to stuff your body. So not only am I just going to single crochet in each stitch for the next 5 rounds, which will leave me with 24 stitches for each round, I'm also going to stuff this body, and I'm going to do any decorative stitch work like what I did down here for the legs. I may decide to do on the body, and so this is the perfect time to do that, particularly before you actually start to stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the next 5 rounds and stuff my body, and I will meet you right back here. So now that I've completed rounds 31 through 35, and I've stuffed my body as much as I can stuff it, and I've also added my decorative stitching that I'm going to for this piece, I now want to add the arms. And the arms are going to be maybe a little different than you're used to seeing, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet 5, and then I'm going to sandwich the arm together with the actual body, and I'm going to single crochet through the 2 rows of single crochets. I'm going to completely do that. Then after that, I'm going to single crochet 3 on the back of the body, and then I'm going to have my other arm that is going to set over here, and then I'm going to single crochet my 8, and that will bring me back to the beginning again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. So remember, single crochet 5, then sandwich your arm with the rim of the neck here and single crochet your 8 stitches, and then you're going to single crochet 3, and then you're going to single crochet 8 again, and that's going to bring you back to the start. Now, another thing to keep in mind is make sure that your thumb is facing forward on each side. Okay, so now that we've completed round 36 by attaching the arms, I still have 24 stitches for this round. Now, moving on to round 37, I am going to decrease all the way around. So I will end with a count of 12 stitches for round 27. So 1, 2. Okay. Next, for round 38, I am simply going to single crochet a total of 12 single crochets to complete the round. Then I'm going to finish stuffing this top part of the body to my satisfaction. And after that, we're going to move on to the head. Okay, so I've completed round 38. I finished stuffing. I also added some additional stitch decorations onto my Voodoo doll. And now I'm going to be moving on to the head. So we're going to begin, even though we're just picking up where we left off at the end of round 38, I'm going to start referring to it as round 1 because it'll be round 1 for the head. So we're going to begin round 1 by placing an increase in each of the 12 stitches. So when I've completed round 1, I will have 24 stitches in my round. So this is going to be my first increase, and then my second increase, of course, and then of course so on and so forth until the round is completed with a total of 24 stitches. And I'll meet you right back here when that's complete. Okay, so next I'm going to move on to round 2 for the head. And for round 2, I'm going to follow a pattern of 1 increase and then a single crochet 5 times. I'm going to repeat that pattern 4 times and we'll end with a total of 28 stitches. So I'm going to begin by making an increase in that first stitch. Replace my stitch marker in the very first single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to repeat this 3 more times. So I'll meet you back here and I will have completed 28 stitches. Okay. Now understand things are starting to get a little fiddly to work with. Maybe feel like a little cumbersome, but that's okay. We don't have too much more to go in terms of all of this. We're just working on the head now. So hang in there and you'll be really happy with the results. So for round 3, for the head, I am now going to follow the pattern of an increase plus single crochet 6 times. And I'll do that all the way around, and I will end with a total of 32 stitches. Okay, so the base of our head is coming along quite nicely. Next thing we're going to do is move on to round 4. And for round 4, the pattern is going to be an increase and then a single crochet 7. An increase and a single crochet 7. And you're going to repeat that pattern 4 times. And the end stitch count will be 36. Now next, for round 5, I'm going to increase and then I'm going to single crochet 8. So that's the pattern, an increase and a single crochet 8. And I'm going to repeat that pattern 4 times. And I will end round 5 with a count of 40 stitches. Okay, so now that we've completed round 5, let's move on to round 6. And round 6 is going to be an increase plus single crochet 9, and you're going to follow that pattern 4 times, and that'll leave us with a count of 44 stitches at the end of round 6. So now for round 7, the pattern is going to be 1 increase and single crochet 10, and you're going to repeat that 4 times, and we'll end with a count of 48 stitches. So now next, for round 8, I'm going to go ahead and increase and then single crochet 11. I'm going to repeat that pattern 4 times, and we will end up with a total of 52 stitches for that round. So now that I've completed round 8, I'm moving on to round 9. And for round 9, the pattern is going to be an increase and then a single crochet 12. So you're going to repeat that pattern 4 times, and you will end up with a total count of 56 at the end of round 9. Now for round 10, we're going to go ahead and follow the pattern of an increase and then single crochet 13. You're going to repeat that 4 times. So an increase, a single crochet 13, 4 times. And when we've completed that for round 10, we'll finish up with a count of 60 stitches. Now for round 11, we're going to go ahead and increase plus a single crochet 14. I'm going to follow that pattern 4 times. I'm going to end with a count of 64 stitches for round 11. I did jump ahead a little bit. And so basically where you see my hook is the beginning of round 12. Now for round 12 through 19, you're simply going to single crochet each stitch of each round, and that's going to give you a total of 64 stitches per round. And when you finish doing that, join me for round 20. Now for round 20, this is where we're going to start to decrease. And so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to follow this new pattern, And the pattern is going to be a decrease plus single crochet 6. And I'm going to repeat that pattern 8 times, and that will leave me with a total count of 56 for round 20. So next, for round 21, I'm going to decrease, and then I'm going to single crochet 5. So I'm going to follow that pattern of a decrease plus single crochet 5 stitches. Going to do that 8 times, and I'm going to end with a count of 48. Now that I've completed round 21, I'm going to be moving on to round 22. Basically the same similar pattern, decrease, and then single crochet 4 this time. And you're going to want to follow that pattern 8 times. So again, a decrease and then a single crochet 4. And that should leave you with a count of 40 stitches for round 22. Okay, so now moving on to 23. The pattern we're going to follow for this round is going to be a decrease plus single crochet 3 times. So we're going to repeat that 8 times total, and we'll end with a count of 32 stitches for round 23. Okay, so now we've completed round 23, and you can see the top of the head is starting to close quite nicely. We're going to move on to round 24, and for round 24, it's also going to be a decrease, but this time we're going to single crochet 2. So you're going to decrease and then single crochet 2, and you're going to repeat that pattern 8 times. And that'll leave us with a total of 24 stitches for round 24. So we've just completed round 24, and the next round, round 25, is going to be a pattern of a decrease plus a single crochet. Then repeat that pattern 8 times, and that will leave us with a total of 16 stitches for round 25. Now, if you haven't already started, now is the perfect time to start to stuff your head. So I will see you right back here for rounds 26 after I've completed my 16 stitches and have stuffed my head. Okay, so now you can see that I've completed round 25 and I have stuffed my head. And what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to go and decrease each stitch for round 26. So basically there's 16 stitches. When I'm finished decreasing 8 times, I'm going to have 8 stitches left in the round. Okay, so once I've completed round 26, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut a tail, and I'm going to fasten off. Now, the way I'm going to fasten off is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to thread my needle, and then I'm simply going to whip stitch all the way around each stitch, and I'm going to pull it a little tight. And I might need to do this a couple of times around, but it'll eventually just pull everything closed. And then I will weave in my ends, and we will be able to move on to the next step. Okay, so now's the time that I'm going to start discussing how it is I actually put together the elements for the face and head of my Poppet. So as you can see, really the smile is just a result of the black yarn that that I have and have been using throughout the video. To make these eyes, really, I just pretty much doubled up on buttons. So for example, I used this regular standard wooden button and then this kind of enameled coconut shell rather, I think that's what that's made from. And I simply stacked them on top of each other and sewed it in place. Now, in terms of the actual eye itself that you see right here, what I did was I took an appropriate size wooden button, and then I took my eye my flat back eye. And after I sewed my wooden button into place, I then took a good quality craft glue and glued my eye to the wooden button backing. Let me see if I can say that 3 times fast, because I clearly couldn't say it the first time right. Anywho, I think you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Now, in terms of the actual back of the eye, I just used the blanket yarn that I have been using and just a piece of it. And what I did was I made an adjustable ring. And then I did my first round with a count of 6. And then my second round, I just increased. And that gave me a count of 12. And I joined and I finished off. And that gave me this size backing for my eye. Basically my eye socket, if you like. And then I took my Claret yarn that I've been using. And you can see that I used it as a highlight a little bit in my X's, in my stitching. And what I did was I simply single crocheted it in the back loop of each of those 12 stitches. But I doubled up. So basically I increased and I ended up with a total count of 24 single crochets of the Claret in the back loop. And so then I sewed everything together. I combined the buttons with the blanket yarn and standard yarn backing. And then I sewed that in one piece onto the head once I figured out where I wanted to place it. Right here, there again, I made my blanket yarn backing. I started it off the same way, an adjustable ring. First round with 6 crochets, single crochets. Second round with 6 increases, which gave me 12 single crochets. And then what I did was I looped. So I did a crochet loop technique and I gave myself this basic eyelash look. And then what I did was I sewed the back button, and then I glued my eye into place. And then I sewed that part of the eye on. So the blanket yarn, the backing, the button, and then the flat back eye piece all got sewn on. Now this piece right here, I put on after I already sewed on this part of the eye in this case. So I switched things up a little bit. And here what I did was I chained a length of chain that was long enough to fit basically half the circumference of this circle, because that's all I wanted, so that I could have maybe a droopier lower part of the eye socket. And then I single crocheted in each one of those stitches. But I didn't just single crocheted. What I did was I single crocheted in the back bump. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I will show you exactly what I did and how you can do that too if you're interested, because that is exactly the same stitching technique I used for the hair. So you can see that I've got these little ponytail strips that I made for the hair. And so that was the same crocheting technique, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. Now, with the ribbon yarn that I had, I went and did a basic single crochet. I chained the length that I wanted my ribbon to be, and then I just created a rectangular swatch of single crochets to about the size that I wanted my bow to be. So I really liked how this raggy, very choppy, raw-edged ribbon worked out. I like the multiple colors. I like that rag look. I like the fact that I've got bits and pieces hanging out. I think it really adds a wonderful effect to my doll. And then what I did was I took additional ribbon and I wrapped the ribbon around the center tight to pull it together so that it looks like the bow that I wanted it to look like. And then I further wrapped it around the back of my little ponytail hair pieces and just basically tied it on like that. So now let's move on to how I actually made these hair strips. For those of you who know exactly what I'm talking about, you're good. You can jump over this. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, hang tight and I will show you exactly how it's done. Let me go ahead and show you how to make that strip, make that particular crochet technique. So really all you want to do is chain to the desired length, right? I'm only going to do a few here for the sake of demonstration. And this is what your standard chain is going to look like. For those of you who don't know, this right here would be your front loop. This bar right here is going to be your back loop. And then when you turn your chain over and you see this bar that kind of looks like it's more or less weaving over two of those stitches at a time, this is called your back bar. And this is what we are going to single crochet into. So normally if you're single crocheting on a chain, it's this back loop right here that you would normally single crochet into. But for this technique, we want to single crochet in the back bar. So when it tells you, you know, the second chain from the hook, what you really want to do in this case is do the second back bar from the hook. And that's really all there is to it. You just work your single crochet into the back bar. Now you'll see that some people use this technique on like regular Afghans or other projects they might be working on, because really what it does is it gives you a nice clean foundation, a nice clean base. But it also gives you a great strip that you can use for hair. Or in my case, not only did I use it for the hair, but I also used it as that piece that sits and covers about half the circumference of the left eye of my doll. It has been such a pleasure to have you with me here today. Don't forget to check out the videos in the playlist for more tutorials like this one. So until we meet again, stay creative, stay amazing, and above all, continue always to weave your own Wyrd. Bye-bye now.